Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahara, and I guess you could say the worst day has happened for the Xbox community, boys. Xbox down bad. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the console war, I just want to start off by saying I think it's the stupidest thing ever created. And if you're a man over the age of, I want to say 18, or minors, different, okay? You kids have nothing better to do sometimes, okay? You got your TikToks, you got your gaming consoles, but if you're anybody that is an adult, like a tax-paying adult, and you get mad over which plastic box is doing a little bit better in the gaming industry, you're actually a loser. You're a cuck, okay? That's all it comes down to. Now, for me, I like playing video games. Like, that's the most important part, playing the video game. So whether I play on Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Macintosh, your grandma's vibrator, it doesn't matter, okay? Like, at the end of the day, if it's a good game, I'll play it on anything, okay? I'll even bring out the old Virtual Boy and burn out my corneas if it means I get to play a good game, all right? That's just my mentality, all right? So, generally speaking, around every generation, I kind of have a specific place where I play my games. Recently, I've been playing Yakuza Infinite Wealth on the PlayStation, just because I, as you know, love physical discs. So I like owning my game, right? So even if you get rid of the internet and there's no patches, I can still play the game from start to finish. I choose to buy my games on PlayStation. One of the reasons why I never buy games on Xbox is literally because they don't even contain the game anymore on the disc, all right? And this isn't just like standard Xbox consoles or games. This is like their first party experiences. Whether you go get Forza Horizon, whether you go get Halo Infinite, whether you get Starfield, buying a physical disc from Xbox means nothing. In fact, for me, Phil Spencer might as well be a devil in or like a wolf in sheep's clothing, because I think that guy genuinely doesn't care about the gaming industry, okay? I don't think he cares about preserving the games. Otherwise, he would probably ensure 1.0 builds on discs. And I also just don't think he cares about video games. I think what Xbox has done is created a parasocial system in the last few years and has basically dragged on a bunch of people only for their hearts to be let down, because apparently it seems Starfield, that abortion, could be headed over to the PlayStation side. Now, you might have heard these rumors. Xbox Phil Spencer promises a business update event to address those PlayStation rumors, those Sony rumors, so to speak. So what started out with some data mining, apparently people in the industry who are pretty close confirmed that some games like Hi-Fi Rush could be coming over to the PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. Why is that a big deal? As you can understand, Hi-Fi Rush was a Xbox kind of exclusive. It dropped on Game Pass and it's expected to be on the Xbox-like ecosystem. The fact that it's showing up on the, alleged other different systems doesn't look good for the Xbox player base. Remember, they bought into a system, they were expecting a little bit of exclusivity to go towards their end. If you look at exclusives, and again, we'll dive into it, they're one of the reasons why people buy into specific plastic boxes. It's why, for a lot of people, they specifically do have consoles around the house. Because GTA 6 is going to drop. It's not coming out on PC day one. If you want to play it a year in advance on its release date, you're going to have to play on an Xbox or PlayStation. And that is what sells those plastic boxes. If GTA 6 was to drop on PC, I would probably just buy it on PC. Then again, I also like physical copies, so PlayStation probably would be my first choice, but you get the idea, okay? For a lot of people, they wouldn't even choose to dip into the consoles if they could have a PC and just buy those games through Steam or whatever digital, distribution service they have. So on a pretty weird, unsubstantiated rumor from Xbox era, it ended up coming out that Microsoft plans to launch Starfield for PlayStation 5. Now, while I don't think it's the greatest game imaginable, somewhere after the release of their first expansion pack, Shattered Space, they're going to apparently release the PS5 version of this game on, obviously PlayStation. So again, I might buy this because that would mean at least I would get a physical copy of Starfield, one of Bethesda's newest IPs, right? Even if I don't enjoy the game, I can choose to go into it with new content and knowing the fact that I possess the actual game on a physical disc. That's very important to me. And the reason why I say it is literally PlayStation might be the last bastion in at least enforcing some level of 1.0 builds on their discs. If you buy a PlayStation game like I just bought Infinite Wealth and Persona 3, those games are entirely on the disc. I can't trust Microsoft to do it. Microsoft as a company is slowly gearing towards actually turning their system, from my understanding, into a digital-only playground. I actually foresee both Microsoft and even PlayStation, as much as I'm glazing Sony right now, they are also an evil corporation. And in this regard, if one company can take away physical discs without, really the entirety of the gaming industry getting pissed, again, just vocal minorities like me, then I'm sure PlayStation will follow suit as well. But for now, at least PlayStation keeps that ownership dream alive. Whereas with Xbox, a lot of these games I've never even bought because A, I don't feel like I own them physically, and also, Microsoft releases these games on the PC, not even just through the Xbox app, literally even on Steam. Starfield, for me, I own through Steam. In fact, most of my Xbox experience, I'll say all of it, has been entirely on PC for the last few years. Gears of War 4 and every Microsoft game since then, I've exclusively played on PC. Whether it be Flight Simulator, whether it be Forza Horizon, Motorsport, these games have competent PC versions, and for me, if I can just play them on my PC, I just choose to do it anyways. Even if that also involves me playing their games on the Steam Deck as well too. So again, Microsoft is actually kind of cannibalizing their hardware, literally by releasing these games on both systems. See, at least with Sony, when you're buying Spider-Man 2 or a lot of these games, they are, for the most part, exclusive to that plastic box. Now, Sony has been releasing a lot of their games on PC, and I think that's kind of like the heroin dealer showing up, giving you a little taste of the God of War franchise, for instance, right? And then once you play through God of War 20, I think it's 19 on the actual PC, you might choose to buy a PlayStation to play God of War Ragnarok. Or if you can wait like a year or two, you might just buy it later on PC. Same thing with the Spider-Man franchise, Spider-Man 2, the latest entry, still being an exclusive for now. Yeah, I think that's the kind of place, that's what at least keeps PlayStation alive. Exclusivity, as much as I personally hate it, I think every gamer should be allowed to play anything on whatever they want, literally is the thing that keeps these systems and brands alive. Now, Microsoft has recently been buying a lot of their competition like Activision Blizzard and whatnot, and for anybody that wonders, man, Xbox failing might be bad for Microsoft, I'm going to just whittle you down a little bit here real quick. This is Microsoft Corporation's market cap right now, putting them at around $3 trillion of valuation. That makes them, by far, the richest company in the world, okay? If they're even the second richest company, they are by far one of the biggest corporates in the entire planet. So yes, Xbox, even if it doesn't do as good as Nintendo or PlayStation, let me give you a quick comparison. This is Nintendo's market capitalization, almost 11 trillion Japanese yen. This capitalization alone puts them at around $73 billion, a dwarf compared to their competition, Microsoft. And of course, Sony is still, from my understanding, behind them. So for these two guys, their gaming services, their gaming divisions are what keeps them alive. Xbox is but one of many divisions that is part of Microsoft. And in fact, for Microsoft, all they care about is their Office divisions, their operating systems, so on and so forth. They're more worried about their services. For them, Xbox can be the biggest failure in the world and it still wouldn't matter to them. It's just a nice part of their brand for them to keep. Now, recently when they were buying up big studios like Bethesda, like id, like Activision Blizzard, you would think that some of these games would be complete exclusives to their platforms, but they're not. In fact, they have a case-by-case analysis on what's going to actually be an exclusive. And again, for Microsoft, I'm pretty sure they've already given up trying to compete their hardware with their competition. If you actually look at the hardware sales they have, and this isn't accurate information, this is VG charts, but to give you an idea, Microsoft's history is actually quite impressive for consoles. Back when they created the original Xbox, remember what the original Xbox had at the time. It was fighting up against Sony, which by far was the highest selling system in the world still to this day, the PlayStation 2. And it may soon be replaced by the Switch, but the point still stands. Sony led the market, okay? Sony had so many good exclusives like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Final Fantasy X, Metal Gear Solid 3, the list goes on. Exclusives that ultimately put that system, which was the weakest system of that generation, up for everyone around. And it's still to this day still a played system. It's still actively played by countries around the world, okay? Typically in third world countries. Now, of course, the GameCube came out, but it wasn't really the biggest system seller. In fact, the Xbox, the brand new boy on the block, came out and actually outsold it, according to this chart. Now, what did the Xbox have? It was one of the most powerful systems that came out. If you played multi-platform games like Splinter Cell back in the Xbox days, there would be literally changes to the level design because the Xbox could just actually go. It was almost a generation beyond the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. But of course, it also had proper built-in online play. In fact, it was the first system, to my knowledge, to have proper, easily accessible online gameplay through Xbox Live. And also, it had some exclusives, some really banger ones, like Halo 2, for instance, which set the Xbox apart from everyone. Whether you play online or you play with your friends on the same couch, it was one of the best systems. And of course, it was that big dick energy that led to the 7th generation with the Xbox 360, which, again, when you look at this chart, yes, the Wii outsold them, but again, if your grandmas had Wiis, the PlayStation and Xbox 360 stood pretty much toe-to-toe throughout the majority of its lifespan. And why did the Xbox 360 succeed here for most of the generation? Because they had a lot of good games. They had a lot of proper online infrastructure, and at the end of the day, exclusives really carried the Xbox 360. It may not have had as much exclusivity as something from Sony's end, but you got Halo, Gears of War, you've got Forza. You also had JRPG games that they tried appealing to the Japanese audience, which never accepted them. Games like Lost Odyssey, to this day, one of the best RPGs ever created on the planet. That game is still Xbox 360 locked. And thankfully, through emulation, I'm finally able to play some of those amazing exclusives on my PC with 4K, 60 frames per second, so on and so forth. Then, of course, what happened after that was Xbox's worst mistake. Don Mattrick, one of the douchebags who led the Xbox division, basically released the Xbox One to the world, revealed it in the worst way possible. They didn't focus on video games, they focused on movies, televisions, and worst of all, they laid the foundation for what, in my opinion, killed the Xbox for me personally. The always online, internet-attached framework that to this day, the Xbox still relies on. This was a generation where they released a weaker console, they had a bunch of extra checks that shouldn't have been brought in, they released this hamstringed with the Kinect, which caused PlayStation to absolutely dominate the force. And not just dominate, to this day, the PlayStation 5 is still kicking the Xbox Series X and the S's ass. And of course, it's entirely Microsoft's fault in this situation. They focused more on internet services versus actually creating a gaming console. And whether you get Phil Spencer or anybody on this board, I personally don't think any of these people care about preserving these video games and video games in general. I think they just care about services and trying to sell Game Pass subscriptions. Now, while Microsoft says, hey, we're listening and we hear you, we've been planning a business update event for next week, where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Now, look, at the end of the day, I personally don't care if Xbox games go out to other consoles. Look, I made a video where I literally showcased me running Halo on the PS4, admittedly through a hacked version of Linux that was running on a hacked PlayStation. It was a joke video, but it's a good way to showcase that ultimately, at the end of the day, these are plastic boxes. And if you're a gamer, you shouldn't really give a shit if one of your exclusive games is available for everyone. It's a net positive. However, if you invest into the Xbox ecosystem, there is no doubt there are going to be some pretty depressed individuals. And I want to play a clip from one individual that honestly took this a little bit too hard.
Massive misstep. I think as a fan and a supporter of the brand for 20 years, I put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this brand over time. It does feel like a bit of a betrayal. It really does. But I also know that we're going to get some clarity on what's going on soon. That I know for a fact. So I guess for me, I'm not going to freak out about anything. It's good to speculate, have the conversations. But just hold the line, man. Hold that line until we know what's going on.
Dog, it is a video game console. Yes, if your games show up on other brands, relax, okay? At the end of the day, these are big corporations. To be so parasocially attached to them is about one of the most depressing things that I can see. Look, at the end of the day, I might be a PlayStation player primarily, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have some attachment to it. Look, at the end of the day, if next generation Sony took away physical media, I'd be done, okay? I'm mostly done with gaming if my physical ownership goes away. At that point, literally just stick to PC gaming right there. But ultimately, look, at the end of the day with the Xbox brand, it's not necessarily Xbox that's dying. It's the fact that their hardware necessarily doesn't even have a reason to be bought. Look, at the end of the day, buying an Xbox ultimately means nothing. There's no physical ownership that you properly get on these devices because they don't even print discs with the completed game on them. And the other thing is, these are games that are available day one on PC anyways. Look, I said a billion things about the Xbox. The one important thing that I said even before the launch of this generation was that if Microsoft allowed you to partition half of your hard drive and just run Windows directly on your Xbox, could you imagine how many sales Microsoft could actually create if they sold the cheapest accessible PC gaming system on the market? Could you imagine buying an Xbox Series S, plopping it on your desk, connecting an HDMI cord, connecting a keyboard and mouse, and just playing your PC games directly on an Xbox? And if you want to experience the simplicity of the Xbox, bring up a controller and just start playing on the Xbox directly. That, ladies and gentlemen, I think could have been a feature that sold them apart from Sony and Nintendo. If they had done that, I probably might have used my Xbox more. If I was younger, having that extra bit of functionality, and having a gaming PC is a lot of functionality, sorry to say, it would actually be a system feature that they could build, sell, and make a part of, their brand. And if they had done that, they would have had something that truly would have set themselves apart, and maybe they would have sold more hardware. But I don't even think Microsoft cares about that. At the end of the day, I think they care about just how many people sub to their services. And that's really all it comes down to. Game Pass, Xbox Live, just people subbing to their services, which is what Microsoft's business is now primarily about, is what's caused Xbox to be in the situation that it is. Microsoft releases their games day one on PC, and not just through the Xbox platform, Steam as well. So there is no real reason for somebody to buy an Xbox platform when if you can buy a gaming PC, even if you pay a little bit more upfront, you get way more functionality out of a computer, and you still get access to the same Xbox ecosystem. You can just buy PC Game Pass and play those day one exclusives right out of the box. And if it feels too confusing, hook up an Xbox controller. Then it really does feel like an Xbox. In fact, hell, most of these gaming computers are getting you better performance than an Xbox anyways. Look, Xbox's brand is in a weird spot, and I have pretty much fallen off the brand, and it's wild to say because during the 360 era, I was pretty much all on board. But given their recent trend since the original Xbox One, there really isn't any reason to own the Xbox brand. All of it is available entirely on the PC. And if they start releasing some of their big exclusives over to PlayStation and Nintendo, then we're at a point where owning the actual box means nothing. Why bother with buying an Xbox when those big games that you would exclusively purchase the box for are available on everything? There's a reason why PlayStation sell by the bucket loads. It's because they release exclusive games year after year. Those state of plays where they showcase their exclusive games like Horizon, like God of War, like Death Stranding 2, and you know for a fact are only available on that box for a pretty healthy period of time. Hell, to this day, one of the best Souls games, Bloodborne, is still locked entirely to the PlayStation brand. But, ladies and gentlemen, hey, as a gamer, fuck exclusives, and down the road, emulation makes sure that all of these games are playable for everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.